Right, so she did something in the fall of 2024, and then you get called in January, and you go to this hearing, then you have a lunch after the hearing, and then they say, can you do us a letter about your concerns about the roof?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
You do the letter. You have some back and forth about the letter before it's finalized.
Yeah, it sounded like there was a change in the email address, or we had a bad email.
Amy helped write the letter.
Yes.
Now, nothing in there said what the purpose of the letter was for that I saw. Can you look real fast and verify that I'm right about that? Nothing in your transmittal emails. It looked like you had an oral conversation or something, because nothing in your transmittal email says why you're writing this letter.
Right. I mean, it was this first paragraph is the closest thing to it, where it says, we appreciate the opportunity to expound upon the reasoning behind our recommendation to avoid placing the generators at the top floor of the garage, which we understood to be the board's first choice for generator placement.
So, obviously there's some oral conversation that's not reiterated in the emails, right?
Yeah, I think.
Because there's nothing in there that says, please write me a letter.
Right.
Okay. So there's got to be a conversation.
Right.
Okay. And from your takeaway from that conversation was that you're supposed to put in writing why the ground is a better place for the generator than the roof.
Right.
Okay. And you do that.
Right.
Then you get a call from Tom Grass.
Yes.
And
Want me to pull that up?
yeah,
Or
you
got
pull
it?
that up for us. I don't think I can open your thing because it keeps closing every time I leave it alone.
Understood.
Okay.
Tom.
Oh my God. I don't know the stupid challenge phrase now. I'm locked out of my own computer.
I feel your pain.
It's just like. What she wants me to do is in Depo. Can't even do a computer. Oh, okay, I think I got it. Here we go.
Okay.
Okay, I think I got it. There's a Ann Miller. Here we go. Now I'm going to give it an exhibit number. When we can reduce it to an exhibit, we will. Okay, but we'll have it for purposes here. What exhibit number are we on? I'll tell you what, we'll call that 34. That'll be safe for 34. This is from Ann Miller to Gordon Sheperd, subject from Tom Grass. And it was dated January 31st at 9:53 p.m., which was a Friday. Okay? So Friday, January 31, 2025, 9:53 p.m. From Ann Miller to you. And it says, from Tom Grass, he sent to me via text, but it does not sound accurate. Can you explain? And I want you to know I was able to talk to Mr. Gordon, the engineer, before he opened up his email from Stephanie saying not to talk to any of us. So he did confirm that the engineering report he did was not for the 3 7,000-pound generators placed out on the roof. I have his phone conversation recorded. He clearly states 3 generators placed out on the roof is not what the engineer report represents. From the indication speaking with him and talking about 30 cars parked on the roof at any given time, I don't know why in all of this is happening. Is that the same thing that you have on your, that I got from you this morning?
Yes.
All right. We're on the same page. Now, we're gonna call that Exhibit 34, okay? So Exhibit 34 will be this email that I got from you today. That's an email from Ann conveying this stuff from Tom Grass. Did you remember having that conversation with Tom Grass?
Yes.
Okay. And Tom Grass called and spoke to you, and then after he called and spoke to you, did you get a letter from me?
I don't recall. I will defer to you on that.
I wrote you a letter after. Now we are on what number?
30. Well, we have 35. So 36.
I think we sorted that out. We only had 135, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then now, so
Now
we're
it's
going
36. Okay. So I think. Different way. Let's see. I'm going to mark this email chain. There we go. As Exhibit 34. Sort it out there, but I'll do it this way. Yeah. Okay. Just a second. You stop there. Okay. When you tell me to, we'll stop. Okay? So tell me when I need to make a stop. Right now?
Yeah.
Right this second?
Yeah.
Okay. We're gonna make a stop for Kim's Switch.
Okay.
Okay. I'll mark it anyway and give it to you so we can,
Okay.
gives you a second to look at it.
Ready?
Off the record? Are we on the record now?
You want to stop now?
If we need to make the camera change, switch. Yeah, okay, we'll switch now. We're off the record for a second. Yeah.
All
We're back on the record at 3:15, 3:14, whatever. And we were just talking about emails that 34 was the email from Tom. From Ann sending you what she received as a text from a resident named Tom Grass. Do you recall now having that conversation with Tom Grass?
Yes.
Okay. And we talked a bit about that. When he called you, did you understand that he had been a recipient of your letter, Exhibit 23?
Yes.
Okay. Did you know that letter was being sent out in connection with a package called the Special Meeting Package?
I wasn't aware of that initially, but I found out after the fact. Okay.
Did you know that start back. Did you ever get a copy of that special meeting package that went out?
I don't believe I did.
I did not see it in the stuff you gave me.
Okay.
Okay. So, but it's important for us to know whether or not you got something to put your letter in context for how it was being used.
Okay.
Okay. So if you find that, then be sure to let me know. Okay.
All right. I'll do that.
Meanwhile, we will presume that you did not have any idea what would surround your letter when it went out.
Okay.
It would be part and parcel of a package.
Okay.
Is that fair to say?
Sure.
Okay. No, I want to know, do you have any recollection of seeing a package and saying this letter's going to go in it?
I don't recall. Yeah, no, I don't recall that. But
Okay.
I don't recall receiving that package when it went out.
Then let me hand you now Exhibit 36, and say that that came either from the park or from you, because I know it's not for me, because it says you don't often get email from Tracy Conwell.
Right.
And, so this is a letter, Tuesday, February 4th, 2025. And that's got a CC on there to Tom Grass, who was the person with whom you had the conversation.
Yes.
Okay. Now we're on the same page. It says, Dear Gordon Sheperd, I appreciate your work on the generator project. We are in receipt of your letter, January 25, 2025. Could you please clarify that you were referring only to the 750 kilowatt generator and not to 3 generators in the alternate proposal? The letter on the face of it appears to say no generators can go on the roof at all. Did I read that correctly?
You read that correctly.
Okay. Then, next paragraph. But I understand from Tom Grass, excuse me, let me start again. But I understand from Tom Grass, who spoke with you, that you were only referencing the current project, viz., or namely, the 750 kilowatt. But you were unable to remove the S following generator because you made it as instructed. Did you know it was for purposes of the vote? Could you please correct your opinion letter now that you know it is being used to influence owners to believe that you have given a professional opinion as a structural engineer that a rooftop installation on the garage is not structurally feasible for 3 smaller units or any generator at all? If you fail to correct the opinion to make it clear that you were only talking about the 750 kilowatt generator could not go on the roof, then you are allowing your work to be used to promote a deception. Can you please seal your opinion and correct the typos? I also noted that you did not seal the opinion, and what was your reason for that? I ask that you please provide your Texas Professional Engineer seal and license number for our records by reply with your corrected opinion. Let me know if you need any additional information from me. Thank you for your time and assistance. Did I read that correctly?
You did.
Okay. Following the receipt of my letter, what was the first thing you did?
I contacted Sarah.
And how did you, or did you contact Ian?
I may have.
Can you look at your emails and tell?
Yeah, that's a good question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That would have been February 4th.
Uh-huh.
Okay. There's that, and then. I did forward it to Ann Miller. And I did that, I'm sorry, I did forward it to Ann Miller with just an FYI. And then she wrote back saying, did you give them a letter, or was that just to me? Ignore this and we will notify the attorneys.
Okay, so at what time did you send that to Ian?
February 5th at 8:12 a.m.
All right, and that email presumably is in my,
It is.
okay, so I'm gonna call that email exhibit 30. Call that exhibit, we're on 36, 37, okay? Exhibit 37 will be an email from Gordon Sheperd to Ian Miller dated February 5 at 8:12 a.m., correct?
Yes.
And she tells you in there to ignore the letter?
Yes. And
That's it?
and she said, ignore this and we will notify the attorneys.
So you did not personally contact Sarah Gertis?
That's correct.
Did Sarah Gertis ask to represent you at any point in time?
On Wednesday, February 5th, at 9 a.m., Ann wrote me an email saying, Sarah has asked me if you will authorize her to tell Tracy and other parties not to contact you. Thanks. And I agree on after that.
And all it says is, will you authorize Sarah Gertis to tell Tracy Conwell and others not to contact you?
Yes. And I said that's authorized.
That's February 5th at
9:22 that I authorized that.
9:22. We're going to call that Exhibit 38. And that's an email
Yes.
chain, both from Ann Miller to you and a reply
With Sarah Gertis on
Sarah Gertis.
CC.
that they are authorized to do so.
Yes.
Now, looking back at Exhibit 36, you will see that there's a letter to me from Sarah Gertis on February 6th.
And this is 36?
Yeah,
Sorry.
February, I have the copy, I'm gonna give you a copy of it so that you'll have a copy of this.
Okay.
Because I don't know if you actually have it, because on February 6th, there's an email from Sarah Gertis. It's just to me and to Tom Grass and to my counsel, Joe at houseofperone.com. And it
Okay.
does not appear that you were CC'd on that, right?
This
This one I'm showing you? That same one?
yeah.
Yeah. I don't see your CC on that, do you?
No,
Okay, so I don't know if you know what she said to me.
I do not.
Okay, well, it says that Mr. Gordon Sheperd asked that I contact you regarding the communication below. Now, you didn't really ask that she contact me, you just gave Ann Miller permission to tell me not to contact you.
Or gave Sarah permission,
Yeah,
yes.
you gave Ann Miller permission to give Sarah permission or whatever,
Yes.
in response to 38, Exhibit 38.
That's
You
correct.
responded to Exhibit 38 with, yes, I authorize you.
Yes.
Okay, so that's all you've done. It says, Mr. Sheperd will not be responding to your email. Please do not contact Mr. Sheperd again. As a unit owner, you have no right to contact the association's vendors and contractors on behalf of the corporation. First of all, is there anything in my letter?
Where is that? I'm sorry.
Okay, that is in,
Am I not looking at the right one?
yeah, it's kind of, this is all kind of wacky. Here we go. It's on the back page, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Okay,
I do
it
see
says, first of all, let me interrupt the thing right there again. It says I have no right to contact the association vendors or contractors on behalf of the corporation. If you look at my email, did I ever say to you that I was contacting you on behalf of the association? I don't believe I did. If you look at it, it says, Mr. Sheperd, I appreciate your work. We are in receipt of the letter. Clearly, I obviously just read it, so I wasn't part of the in crowd.
Yeah.
Could you please clarify blah, blah, blah? And it says your letter is being sent to the homeowners.
Yes.
Yeah, so I do not represent to you that I am in any way, shape, or form the corporation itself, do I?
No.
Okay. And it says, Mr. Sheperd will not respond to your personal inquiries. So she's doing all this based upon you're simply saying, yes, she's authorized to tell them not to contact me.
Yes.
Okay. You're not the board, you do not represent the board. Again, you see no evidence that I said I did, do you?
But that's correct.
Okay. Then she accuses me of tortiously interfering with the vendors and the contractors for the community. Did you understand my letter to be saying, do you know what they're doing with your letter? They're sending it out to the homeowners?
Yes.
Okay. And as I sit here today, I understand that you were never given the package that it was being sent out with.
That's correct.
Did you intend for that letter to stand for the proposition to all the homeowners that there was not a way to build generator power on the roof of the garage for $1 million less than we were being charged by Mr. Humphries?
Okay.
Okay, that's a big thing, right? So let's break it down. Did you intend in any way, shape, or form for your letter to be used to represent to the homeowners that there was not a viable, cheaper option to have standby generator power provided to the park under the Genergy proposal exhibit 13.
I think, no, however, I thought that there were some concerns that I outlined in this letter, this January 29th letter, that I articulated within this. In rereading that letter, I think I could have been clearer to differentiate between those concerns, between the 750 megawatt generator versus the three 250 generators, and the specific considerations that apply to all those different options.
Well, it would have been vastly more economical to install the 3 serially connected 250s than to put the 750 on top of the roof.
I don't have an opinion on cost, however, it would have been much simpler and easier to do.
So when they were looking at it with Dan Tragney and Amy Patrick and Miller in 2023 and said that the cost would be, someplace in the neighborhood of 60,000 or a little bit more than that, you have no reason to disagree with that.
I have no reason to disagree with that.
And your letter was not intended to tell people that as a structural engineer, I am telling you, all of you homeowners, that you are not going to be allowed structurally to put any generator facility on the garage. Let me say that again. You did not mean for your letter to stand for the proposition that I, Gordon Sheperd, put my structural engineering license behind a statement that the garage cannot be used as a place to build or provide standby generator power.
I agree with that.
Okay. So, if in fact somebody said, Gordon Sheperd told us that we could not put a generator on the roof of the garage by his letter, Exhibit 23, you would say that is not what I said.
That is correct.
Do you know that a number of the homeowners were very interested in saving $1 million on this project?
No, I don't know that. But I'm guessing that would be reasonable.
Do you know that some of the homeowners, including myself, were very interested in not losing our interest in the platted parking lot?
I don't have an opinion on that.
Do you know how long the Humphreys proposal proposes to tear up the parking lot? For what period of time?
I don't know.
Do you know how much of the parking lot they propose to tear up?
I'm guessing it would be this plat that we saw on Exhibit 21.
Mm-hmm. Do you know that they plan to actually tear up the whole thing that's yellow on that?
I wasn't aware of that.
Well, there's actually some writings back and forth, but you check this, saying they don't even have to excavate or jackhammer the asphalt underneath the generator because they're going to try to do some other kind of standing thing to save some money on that, and yet they're going to dig up the whole thing, I think, because of the HL&P easement. Do you know anything about that?
I do not.
Okay, she goes on to say, Mr. Sheperd considers your communication harassment, and he's not the only one. We've been contacted by other vendors and neighbors who are complaining about harassing behavior of you and Mr. Grace. Did you tell anybody that I was harassing you?
No.
Do you believe I did harass you?
No.
It says, do not represent yourself as a board member or part of a future board. Did I tell you I was a board member or part of a future board?
No.
And then they said we will not hesitate to amend the association's pleadings to add Mr. Grass as a party and pursue both of you for tortious interference and defamation. Did I say anything in that letter that you consider defamatory? Well, first, before we get to that, and you look at it, did you complain about defamation to anybody?
No.
You didn't say she's defaming me, did you?
I'm sorry?
You didn't speak about me, Tracy Conwell, and say, this letter defames me?
No.
Okay. All right. And then I'll let you look at it later and decide if you think it's got anything defamatory in there, but I don't think it does.
I don't believe it does.
Okay. Now, I wrote Sarah back and I said, and it's in Exhibit 36, I said, I'm in receipt of your most recent threat. And she had made a number of them. If you believe I violated any laws and you have incurred any damages, please file whatever you think is appropriate. I stand by what I said. Do you see that?
I do.
Okay. The irony is that you were threatening people, you were the one threatening people, not the owners. We're just trying to get the facts and have a full and fair vote, which is made difficult when Ms. Miller keeps undermining it by injecting herself into the process. And it goes on to say stuff, blah, blah, blah. But basically, it says we're trying to get a fair vote. This is not a fair vote. Do you know what vote I'm talking about?
I'm assuming it was the vote that was ordered by the judge.
Do you know whether or not the, quote, vote that they took was a vote that would be adequate under our governing documents to take our parking lot or to build a new common element?
I don't have an opinion on that.
Okay. Do you know about a statute that exists that authorizes condominium associations to add standby generator power by amending their declaration or bylaws?
I don't know about that.
Did you ever meet with any lawyer to talk to the board and the lawyer or the lawyer by themselves about the law that applied to whether or not the Park Condominium Association could take this action without asking the homeowners?
No.
Okay. But I go on to say that I have not threatened anyone, and I just want you to corroborate that for me. I did not threaten you, did I?
No.
Then, did you know that the man who did Exhibit 13 and who's referred to on these emails that, like Exhibit 28 from Genergy, this that was in conversation with Ian Miller, that he came to visit us at the property? You got an email just briefly about that.
Okay.
Okay? And she wrote you and said he's on the property.
Okay.
Can you pull that up for us?
Do you have a date of that?
It was January 18th, I believe, when I just saw it, and you showed it to me.
Vendor.
Yeah. It was from Ian Miller to you on the 17th or 18th.
Where the vendor salesman
Yeah.
and the frequently asked questions came to meet with Tracy?
Yes,
and Tom?
that's it. Okay. Would you read that for us?
This is January 17th at around noon from Ann to Sarah and copied to a whole bunch of people, including
Yourself.
Am I even copied on this? Yes, I'm copied on this. The vendor / salesman that we referenced in the frequently asked question from Generac came today to meet with Tracy and Tom Grass. They asked for for access to the building systems, and of course we said no. I'm bothered by a vendor whose contract the board refused is meeting with the plaintiffs, noted that this quote had $1 million in exclusions. Can we warn him of tortious conduct? I'm also not sure he understands what's happening.
Okay. Did you understand what she meant by any of that?
Not really. No.
Okay. Let's mark that as Exhibit 40. No, Exhibit 39. I'm sorry. Exhibit 39. It's a January 17th noon email from Ian to you regarding the generator contractor. Is that what she calls him?
Well, it was to Sarah, but
Okay,
it was
Sarah.
copied to a whole group
Okay.
of people.
Okay. In it, it says, in the, quote, frequently asked questions section. Do you know what she's talking about there?
No.
Okay. Did you have a copy of something that had frequently asked questions in it?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Can I hand you what's been marked, what will be marked as Exhibit 40? just to make sure that. It's already got the exhibit sticker on there. That's it. You need to clean it. Okay, I'm gonna hand you exhibit 40, and that's titled Frequently Asked Questions, January 17th, 2025. Did she attach that to the email that she sent you, or otherwise provide that to you if you can? Tell us. Ann Miller, I'm talking about. Did Ann Miller send you exhibit 40? Or
No.
any other person that you provided to you?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't think I saw that.
Okay, so in her email to Sarah, which is 39, exhibit 39, she refers to this document, would you say? I mean, it sounds like it, right?
Yeah, this FAQ for the Parks
Okay.
Generator project.
Okay, then in that email, if you will flip over to the second page. Second page. There we go.
Of this FAQ?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. You will see that, did the board consider a turnkey proposal for full power at a considerably lower cost? And it says the board received a proposal for a full power solution using 3 generators on the garage, which appeared to be significantly less expensive. We were initially optimistic. However, our MEP, and then she spells out what that means, mechanical, electrical, plumbing consultant, immediately identified numerous critical exclusions within the proposal which would have surpassed the cost of the project as it stands today. Do you know what the cost of his project was in Exhibit 13?
I don't recall the exact.
But it's like under 1.1 million.
Yes.
Okay, so this would mean that exclusions cost more than 1.1 million, and then she has a list. Okay, that consultant, our MEP consultant who identified, quote, numerous critical exclusions within the proposal, which would have surpassed the cost of the project, that is not you, is it?
No,
Okay, so you're not an MEP.
I'm not.
Okay, and you did not render any opinion which would constitute a structural engineering opinion inconsistent with your seal and your code that identified numerous critical exclusions within the proposal which would have surpassed the cost of the project.
No, however, it's unclear to me that I see this structural bullet point, but I know that we would have needed to do something likely.
Well, you're jumping ahead of me.
Okay,
To answer the question I'm on first. Okay, so
Okay.
I'm going to strike that as non-responsive. Let's just go to my question so far. I'm just talking about the first part. You are not the MEP, nor did you render that opinion that she's referring to from the MEP that there are critical exclusions which would have surpassed the cost of the project.
No.
Okay. Now, there's a list of these exclusions which she has attributed to the MEP. One of them is structural modifications and reinforcement, and it says, especially given the garage weight limitations, which we were advised against by our structural engineer. Okay. She doesn't name you. Do you think that refers to you?
I believe so.
Okay. And what does it mean to say we were advised against, given the weight limitations for structural modifications and reinforcement? That sentence, it's not really a sentence. It says structural modifications and reinforcement, especially given the garage weight limitations, comma, which we were advised against by our structural engineer. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but it appears to be saying that you advised against something. Do you know what it was you advised against?
So I think there were some limitations and concerns that I had related to even putting the 250 megawatts that I think could have been, that are described, possibly not as clearly as possible in our later document, the January 29th document. Some of the steel beams that we designed in 2022 or, you know, 21 that could have been applied to these things. And it could be that there was, you know, some confusion in this particular bullet point item related to the larger generator and the application and the large number of modifications that would be required to apply that particular generator on the roof.
That was my next question. The structural modification and reinforcement that we had discussed that was in fact contemplated in Exhibit 15, this one, at the time that it was done, was not considered cost prohibitive. It was roughly $19,000, and it was approved after you proposed it in April of 2021, was it not?
That's right.
Okay. So that could not be something that would cost $1 million for the 3 generators.
I don't believe that. In addition to this frame, I did recommend that they do some of that additional scanning work just as a prudent measure based on our experience with Hilda Wall and what we know about the garage. But that also would not be $1 million thing. I have said it would be in various times and locations that it would be somewhere $25,000 to $50,000 depending on you know, where all we're doing the scanning.
Okay, and did you know that there was a subsequent Genergy proposal in 2025 that Mr. Shagney did where he said that they would, they had estimated under $100,000 for doing an updated structural and designing and installing a structure much like what you had designed in Exhibit 15.
I was not aware of that.
That number sounds within the ballpark to you.
It could be.
Okay. You're not an expert on those numbers, are you?
No.
Okay. Now, the rest of these things in here, electrical testing and connections, site planning and preparation, do you know whether or not those were exclusions in the Humphreys contract?
I do not.
Okay, and did you ever look at the exclusions in the AIA contract?
No.
Okay. There were a number of them, but I'll dig that out in a minute. Okay. In fact, while we're at it and we're talking about the AIA contract, it was attached as Exhibit G to the original defendant's original counter petition. Marked it here as, what are we on here, 41?
Yes.
Okay, 41. Which is going to be identical to Exhibit G on Gale's counter petition. And that's why it's got this, ooh, I just need that. Okay. Exhibit G, it's got the Jarvis cover sheet. Do you know who Jarvis is?
Right. No, I don't recall.
Okay. Then it goes into the Humphreys AIA contract. Here's the part where I was telling you that they were going to rechange the asphalt. Have you seen this one, part of G?
I believe I was copied on that email.
See how they're going to reduce the cost on the contracts already on the AIA. They're going to reduce the cost by using the asphalt the way it is.
Okay.
You see that?
Interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, going back to my questions, have you looked at this AIA contract at all?
No.
Okay. All right, but you're familiar with Exhibit B is a schedule of drawings.
I don't know that I have reviewed this set of drawings.
Okay. The set of drawings that we previously marked.
Exhibits are taking over.
Yeah, exhibit creep. It's like mission creep. Here we go. this exhibit 11,
Yes,
okay, these plans are dated 21 and 23, right? 22, these different various dates?
yes, they're earlier than these.
Yeah, and these are all dated 2024.
Okay.
And you understand, do you not, that these drawings and exhibits comprise and constitute part of the contract and are listed on Exhibit B as E0.01 through G.01?
I'll accept that.
Okay, and that's standard fare in connection with construction contracts, is it not?
That is.
So until you have the plans and specs, you don't have a contract that tells you what you're gonna build and what you're gonna do.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes,
And you're used to looking at those in connection with your job, are you not?
yes.
Okay. In the that's your letter agreement signature at the back. This
In the Humphreys contract?
yeah,
What?
yeah. I'm gonna hand it to you. Just in Exhibit G that was attached to your petition, they had as the last part an agreement with you. Can you tell us what that's about?
And this is the contract that I sent to, Stephanie Speakmom
Yeah.
at Parks, but with Ann Miller's email address on it, to basically engaging us for essentially an hourly scope of work.
But did you understand that to be part of the construction contract?
I did not understand this would be a part of a construction project. I thought it would have been related to engaging Amy's support for
For designing the structural,
in accordance with
these structural designs we were talking about before?
That's correct.
Okay, and so had they wanted to, they could have, at some enormous expense, designed something to put the big generator, 750 generator, on the roof.
I believe so.
And
Lots
Amy
of-
would have been the one to do that, not you.
It depends. It probably, I may have re-engaged on that effort because it seemed,
Yeah, that would be a big project.
yeah, it would have concerned me.
Okay, and so, but at that time, you didn't have a scope of work that said, we want you to do that.
No.
Did you understand at any point in time that you were being hired to render an opinion for the board to use to convince the owners that it would be impossible to put any kind of generator on the roof?
No.
You wouldn't have made that opinion, would you, had you been asked?
No.
In engineering circles, it's hard to say something's impossible if you can engineer a way to do it, right?
Yes.
Okay. Would you ever have rendered the opinion that it was economically unfeasible without actually doing the tests and coming up with the prices? For the 750 kilowatt.
I did and could have predicted that there would be a significant engineering and testing scope that would have been needed in order to even begin that conversation. So,
But that same problem did not beset you with the 3 smaller ones spaced apart?
no, I think we had, based upon our previous design, we had a concept that I think was possible with some caveats and additional work that we've already talked about a couple times.
Were you ever aware that there was $1 million difference between these 2 proposals?
I've heard the word $1 million batted around, but I didn't understand where it came from.
Well, some people say the Ian Miller, for example, says that Exhibit 13, the Genergy proposal for the 3 serially, where that is, here it is. Ian Miller has said that Exhibit 13 would require an additional $1 million. Have you heard that said?
I don't recall what the $1 million was in reference to.
Did you ever provide any numbers to Ann Miller in connection with what it would cost to put Exhibit 13 on the roof?
No.
Okay. Can you, as you sit here today, make a guesstimate of what it would cost to put Exhibit 13 on the roof?
I think we talked about $100,000 would be a starting point, assuming that nothing unexpected came out of the scan that we're talking about.
Okay. Now, did you have anything, I have a question for you. Do you have any knowledge or expertise in connection with sound enclosures? And the question, because if you do, I'm going to ask you the following question, which is, does it make more sense to put a sound enclosure or no sound enclosure on 3 redundant generators on the roof deck? But I'm only going to ask you that if you have any knowledge or expertise in that.
Only in that I know they weigh a lot, and they add a lot of weight to the generators themselves.
So the question that I'm asking though is, well, first of all, have you ever seen 3 put in a roof before? I've never seen them with an enclosure. That's what I was going to ask you. Have you ever seen 3 in a roof with an enclosure?
I don't recall.
Well, does the sound dissipate better on the roof with or without the enclosure, if you know?
I don't know.
And on the ground, one of the reasons you want an enclosure is because people don't want to look at them, right?
I think one of the things I read is that there's a bare enclosure for weather protection. And I think that makes sense regardless of whether it's on the ground or the roof.
Right, like a cover. Gotcha.
A box.
Okay, and then you're a structural engineer, so you do know something about vibration.
Yes.
Okay, and there are some experts who do nothing but that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. These generators come from the factory in Wisconsin where they make Generac with a pad. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
And that pad is a dampening pad, correct? And when you designed the generator structure and exhibit,
11.
yeah,
Oh,
okay.
yeah,
yeah,
it's the same.
Yeah, the design that's here in exhibit 11. Yeah, does that actually use the pad, or does it go on these and that dissipates the vibration?
It's dissipated at the feet of the generator, and then those vibration isolators go down to our steel structure.
Okay, so that was already built into that plan, a use that would be mitigation of the vibration.
That would assist with it. I think.
Assist. Well, yeah, make it. It was not, this thing would not generate nearly as much vibration as a 750 kilowatt one would on the roof, would it?
That would be my expectation.
Yeah. Okay. Let me see. Is there any required drainage system on your exhibit 11, the drawing exhibit 11? Did that require a drainage system when it's up there? Isn't it up off the?
It's up off the deck, so
Yeah.
I don't think. I think we might have an opportunity for a little bit of puddling around these feet, but everything else is suspended, and so
On a slope, on a deck that's supposed to drain anyway, right?
trains a little bit, sort of.
That's what you had worked on with respect to that roof too. That whole property garage, right?
Yeah.
So it had decent drainage such that you did not design detention ponds, for example.
I did not design any detention ponds.
And I've never seen a detention pond on a roof deck. Have you?
That would be interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Were you at any time told that the generator was in Houston, Texas?
Not that I think I heard about it at the hearing, that there was some discussion of where the generator was.
Yeah, and at the hearing that they told the court that the generator was in Houston, Texas, and it costs $500 a day. Do you remember that?
I do.
Did you ever find out that that was in fact false?
I didn't know.
You did not find out that was false?
No.
As of last month or this month, the generator is still in Wisconsin. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know where the generator was.
Okay. Let me go back to my letter then. One more thing. Did you know that the documents for the park gave the owners the right to vote on any expenditure exceeding $25,000 unless it was necessary for an emergency repair?
I don't know about their rights or requirements.
So you don't know why some of the owners were mad that they hadn't been asked to vote?
No.
After I sent you this letter that I sent you as part of Exhibit 36, did you in fact try to make a correction that you wanted disseminated?
Not because of your letter.
But did you in fact ever ask to update your opinion?
I mostly because I did do something related to Tom Grass's report or his call about recording my call.
But did you not write a letter back to Ann and saying that you were updating your opinion?
We did write this April, shoot, what is this? The dates are all becoming mud in my mind. What is that exhibit that I'm looking for?
Third, let's see.
It's 23.
Yeah, 23.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So we've got 23. It originally went out on the 28th, and then we made a slight edit on the 29th. And so that was but that was the one that you were responding to on February 5th. And I didn't make any further updates after that. I don't believe.
Well, you provided me with one
Which one is that?
that I managed to print out that was dated February 1 to Ian Miller via email. Can you pull that up?
That's the one that I talked about where I tried to clarify
Yes.
after the Tom Grass call.
Yes, Tom Grass, yes.
Unless he and Ann is subsequently wedded or something.
Yeah. We could have our little joke about that.
Sorry, was it on
That bears repeating. Okay, strike on that.
Please do.
Yes, very good. Okay, we are now on Exhibit 41, is that correct?
42.
42, what was 41?
41 is also Exhibit G from the counter petition.
40 is Exhibit G, isn't
Oh, I had 40 as the FAQ.
it? Let me see.
Here's
Yeah, that's 40, you're right. Okay, 40 is, okay, I switched to Exhibit G. 40 is, yes, you were right. So I'm on 42 now?
yes.
Okay.
Right, and that's the February 1st letter.
Oh. Then, okay. What this letter does, in my opinion, correct me if I'm wrong, Exhibit 42, is it says that if you're comparing apples and oranges, namely the 750 versus the 250, that the 750 is going to take a relatively larger supplemental steel strengthening the beams and columns to the ground directly beneath it, and then with the enclosure would really increase the cost of that. Whereas the smaller 250K units reduce the load in one spot considerably, but would require some additional support. The size of these members are reduced. Okay? So you said, while it's technically possible to place a single larger generator unit, 3 smaller units, the additional cost and complexity in this case resulted in our favoring the choice to proceed on the ground. That talked about 750.
That's right.
Okay. So you're saying when it comes to the 750 kilowatt, it makes more sense to go on the ground because the additional cost for that is so high.
That's certainly true.
Okay. It doesn't say that the 3 ones that you've been paid to do an analysis, and that the 3 ones would increase it where it was cost prohibitive.
It does not say that.
Now, let me just make sure on the record, you did not get a copy of Exhibit 40.
Not that I'm aware of. It may have hit my mailbox somewhere, but I don't recall reviewing it.
Okay. And can you just search for the word and see if you got something called special meeting package?
Come on, search within this folder.
I didn't see it in the brief time I had to look at the stuff, but just want to make sure.
I don't recall
Okay.
getting it.
And
I'm not finding it during my poor searching.
okay, if you had been provided a copy of a package that your letter went in with the statement that your letter stood for the proposition that no alternate proposal could be economically feasibly done on the garage roof, you would have had an obligation under the engineering code to tell them that that's not what you said, wouldn't you?
So I think, it was problematic in that the timing of it appears to be problematic to me.
The timing of your letter?
No, I mean, the timing of this subsequent consideration of the 3 generators versus the generator on the ground, that, at some point the ship has left the dock, and going back.
After they bought that one?
After, it's kind of hard to go back in time to consider it.
Yeah, now, that is not what you're an expert on, though, is whether or not we could get our money back on it, right?
I'm not an expert on that.
Yeah, I mean, if in fact there's insurance to cover the return of that generator, or there is somebody on the hook for it for making a bad decision, that would not be something that would be in your bailiwick.
No.
So if we didn't have the generator here already, if we hadn't bought the car before the horse, and you had to pick between those 2, would you pick a $1.1 million installation on the roof or a $2.2 million big one on the ground?
Objection form.
I don't have an opinion on that.
What is your objection?
I mean, that's speculation.
You just-
and an
you just-
opinion.
Okay, that's fine, you just.
Yeah, I said there's
Speculation.
I mean, I think we've talked a lot about
Yes.
the considerations that would be involved with the 3 generators on the roof. And certainly the 750 on the roof is a big problem. But the 3 it still has some challenges, but they're much more limited compared to the 750.
Yeah, it doesn't make it economically infeasible to do this.
And I think it depends on your definition of economically unfeasible, but
Well, let's put
it's
it
far
this way.
less complicated in terms of scope and requirements.
Let's put it this way, I got a $1.1 million proposal. If I have to add 100 grand to it, I'm still $1 million less than the one I'm being sold on the ground. Do you understand that?
I hear what you're saying.
Okay, so you're not opining that the one I'm talking about that's 1.1 million with $100,000 possible increase for reinforcement is not workable. You're not making that opinion, are you?
I don't have that opinion at all.
And you didn't make that opinion before.
No.
And you didn't intend for your opinion to be used to persuade homeowners that that turnkey job was not available.
I intended to convey my opinions only.
Well, I know that you intended to convey your opinion. I just want to make it absolutely clear that you did not intend to convey your opinion to support that no installation of a generator could be made on the garage deck. Right?
Yes,
Okay. Yes, that's true. You did not have that intention.
that is correct.
Now, under the code, if you were told that your opinion was being used to do that, you would have a duty to correct it, would you not?
I would want to correct that.
So if you had an opportunity and could see an opportunity to correct that, you would be willing to do so.
I'd be willing to clarify my opinions.
Okay, and then we're just gonna go back, and there was some stuff that we didn't have that I'm gonna finish up and give you just because I didn't have them before, and I can now put them in the record. We talked about the Hilda wall and Anne sent you this letter. She sent you a letter and the stuff you gave me, and this was attached to it. Let me give it a number. Am I on 42?
43.
43. This was the letter we talked about earlier. That was the Tomasetti thing that Ann circulated to you
Yes.
in February of this year.
Yeah, she sent it to me in February, but it was also February of 2020 originally.
Yeah. So you originally got that letter, and it was your understanding back then that their regular consultant for the park was out of town, and so the manager. Oh, that was you. Okay, so then JQ asked this other outfit, and they came in with this Doomsday deal,
Yes.
and wanted to make a lot of money on the garage, and Ann Miller nixed that and got you to work on it instead.
I don't know that they, whether they wanted to make a lot of money on the garage or not. but
Okay. Well, they made a proposal for a lot of money.
Okay.
Is that fair to say?
I don't know that I actually saw their proposal. I saw this letter and I saw some of their other correspondence. They're, expressing deep concern, which I shared to some extent.
And then you took care of those concerns before you ever designed and you designed an exhibit 11.
As a part of, we addressed the known issue, and then we also handled all of the unknown issues that were similar to this, related to this wall failure.
Then, so those issues have been addressed in your opinion.
Yes.
Now we hand you exhibit number 44 and ask you if this is, this guy we talked about, tell me his name.
Kinshu?
Yeah. And what is that?
This is a proposal dated November 28th, 2023. It says it's for parking garage maintenance and waterproofing, and it has a list of several scope items that apparently is based on an inspection that was done October 26th, 2023.
Okay, and is that some of the stuff that you were working on?
I don't believe I was involved in this.
Okay. Does that have anything to do with the structural condition of the garage?
Not directly.
So that has nothing to do, it has no bearing on your opinion today?
No.
Exhibit 44, this is an exhibit from a registered engineer who wrote an opinion on February 4th, 2025 regarding the feasibility of installing a generator on the parking structure, which is the same topic that was in Exhibit 15 from Apollo, the feasibility of generator installation on the parking structure.
Okay.
And he proposes something like Amy was talking about in Exhibit 44 in connection with the Genergy proposal, Exhibit 13, that was updated. Have you seen that letter?
I've not seen this letter.
Okay. It was never provided to you.
No, not that I'm aware of.
And then I take it that you were not also provided with an update to Exhibit 13. The 2025 update to Exhibit 13, you were not provided with it, and rebid and resubmittal of Exhibit 13 in this year?
I don't believe I was.
Okay. So you haven't been asked to comment on that? All right, I won't have any other questions about that. We can take a short break. I think I'm pretty much done. And I need to go to the restroom, and then I'll look over these exhibits. Do you mind taking a short break?
Sure.
Okay, great. Make sure I got everything I could handle off the record.
431 is gonna be 420.
Back on the record at 4:20, and I'm on 44. Is that right?
44.
Okay. I'm gonna hand you an affidavit.
Oh, it was 45.
45, yeah.
45.
44 was solutions engineering.
Oh, right.
Or 44, number 1. Sorry, we've got two 44s. We've got CRX is 44 and solutions is 45. I mean 44.
When you got those, that's a mess up. Let me fix that. I'm glad we did this. Okay. Let me see here. Okay, just for the record, then let's go back and see. The first one we talked about was CRX, and that was Exhibit 44.
Yeah.
Correct, and that's a November 28th, 2023 letter from CRX about parking garage maintenance and waterproofing.
Yep.
And you said you were not involved in that, but that's some of the work that you had organized and designed, right?
I think they are doing some maintenance on some of the things that I organized and designed previously.
So you had done these repairs from the hill to wall
Yeah.
and from other things to the garage, and then CRX is maintaining that.
That's right.
Fair to say? Okay, Exhibit 45, sorry to correct the record here. Exhibit 45 is the letter from the engineer that was in support of the Genergy Proposal 13 about the roof, and then it was updated in 2025 for the new proposal. And that's Exhibit 45, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so now I'm gonna hand you what's been marked as Exhibit 46, which is an affidavit filed in this case by Ann Miller. And And attached to that affidavit, she has the documents from a special meeting of the members, January 31st, and it has a file, just because you said you hadn't gotten it, I just want to make sure that when you eyeball it, you confirm that you have not received this document. And it's got this drawing attached, structural wall attached, and then it has your letter, January 29th, as part of it, and it's in an affidavit from Ann Miller. You have not received this package, have you?
I don't recall seeing that.
So you did not know how your letter was being used or what the preparatory remarks were about what your letter stood for?
Not completely.
Okay, had you, incompletely?
I mean, I knew I needed to, I provided this additional follow-up
Yes.
clarification.
Yeah, you provided the additional follow-up after your conversation with Tom Grass. But you didn't,
Well, this is the letter before my conversation with Tom Grass.
Right.
And so this was what I expected, and I figured they would be using it somehow, but I didn't fully understand how.
okay. When we went, just to make clear, now I gotta clarify. Okay, I don't wanna have to do this, but, we went over what you understood your letter to be used for.
Yes.
That's over here. And okay. And then you did a follow-up letter. Do you think your follow-up letter should have been included with that?
I didn't have an opinion on it. It was, I think I was annoyed at having my phone call or being accused of having my phone call recorded, and then what I felt was an incorrect characterization of my opinions being sent out after the fact. So I was responding to that, I think, more than anything else.
Responding to Tom Grass?
Yes.
And what did you think he said that was incorrect?
Well, he said that my letter, my January 29th letter, was that it was incorrect. And I disagreed with that.
Well, this is the part that I tend to think he's right about. Okay? So let's go over it. You said the generators, and then you have an S in parentheses, would punch through the top side slab without intervention. And we would need to create a new steel rack structure supporting the generator, S in parentheses. So lift it off the top side slab and carry the load to the larger beams at the perimeter of the structural base below. Okay. And then you said in addition to the topside racks, we would need to do extensive additional structural strengthening work on each of the garage's existing structural elements, supporting the garage from top to bottom, to allow the generators to be placed on the top floor. That is not true for 3 generators, is it?
I agree with that.
Okay. So to the extent that I was asking you to modify your letter, I was saying, do you know that your letter is being used to tell people it would be impossible to put these 3 generators on the roof without some structural steel thing that goes all the way to the ground? That's what I was concerned about, is that your letter was being used to convince people that you had rendered an opinion that I can tell today you didn't render?
I think that there is significant confusion that could be gotten between the two generator proposals, that it's not very well clarified, apples to apples in this particular letter.
And then you clarify it in your next letter. So it would be fair, if you're gonna pass this letter out to people, that you pass your clarification letter out to people.
I think that would be reasonable.
That would be reasonable and fair and in accordance with your obligation to correct any false impression that might be garnered by people that you're associated with using your structural, as it says in the statute, using your structural engineering license to support.
Yes.
Okay. I have nothing to add.
Defendant Park is going to reserve questions for trial.
Thank you very much for coming today, and I appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you
Sorry
very
that,
much.
yeah, the delay was largely because I had a hard time going through those things this morning, but I'm not sure of that.
And if I had access to the, are we off the record?
Yes, we are. Wait a minute, we forgot to do that. Hey, Henry, off the record. Henry,
Yes.